goes to me, let me talk to you outside. So again, talking about role models, he's a black man from East London who talks just like me. He's very open with me in terms of challenges he's had with the criminal justice system, all this kind of stuff. And he's like to me, I remember this, I'll never forget this to this day. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I take into my life now. He said, listen, you're going to enter some rooms and you're going to question why you've been invited in there. I need you to understand that you're worthy of being there.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean? He said, listen, I already can see the journey you're going on. You are deserving of being in every one of those spaces. And I need you to know that because you deserve to be there.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Against All Odds. My name is Daniel Coker, your regular host. And this week we have as a guest on our show an amazing young man from South London.
Appreciate you, man.
South London, Lewisham of all places.
home.
And our guest today is Mr. Lewis. Is it Louis or Louis?
Yeah, Lewis. Yeah, you're
Lewis,
right. Yeah.
okay.
Most people go because it's spelled Louis. You're right. Yeah.
So it's Mr. Lewis Howell.
Yeah.
Louis is the founder of 7PK. 7PK is a social enterprise, which I think you tell us a bit more about, where he basically helps people from disadvantaged communities to have different experiences and to sort of put them on different pathways to do well in life. And he's also a co-director of a company called Revolution Hive, which I'm sure he'll tell us about in due course. And I bumped into him actually at the UK Black Business Week, where he was moderating a session and with Raphael Sofaluk and a bunch of other people. And he has an amazing voice. That's one thing that just trying to think, wow, this guy's got a really amazing voice. And I kind of saw how he did everything. I said, no, I've got to get him on this podcast.
Much love, man. I'm grateful to be here, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so welcome, Lewis.
Thank you.
So we normally ask our guests on these shows a bit about their background, because that sort of gives a context to who they are.
Yeah.
And what I've been scratching my head is, how does a young good-looking black kid from South London, Lewisham, which is where I started life actually, when I finished school, I was living on New Cross Road.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
So I know those areas. I know those areas well.
Love it.
And how does a young black kid from Lewisham get to where you are today, making an impact on so many disadvantaged kids, lives of disadvantaged kids?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? I can't figure it out.
Before this episode starts, I'd like to ask a big favor. Your subscription means a lot to us, because the bigger this platform gets, the bigger the guests get. So do me a favor. Please click on the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Now let's get back to this episode.
So I'm gonna be expansive where I can and give you the full story. So as you said, born and raised in Lewisham. Okay. Specifically born and raised not far from Lewisham Hospital. Okay. Born in Lewisham Hospital. But it's interesting. So my parents are originally from West London. So they're from, for people that know London, the Harrow Road, Mozart Estate, that's where my parents grew up. So, oftentimes on weekends, I'd be at my mum's house, my grandmother's house, around the Mozart Estate, seeing the rest of the family. But my parents so my mum's one of 6, my dad's one of 5. For whatever reason, when they got to the point of adulthood and decided to get their own place, they didn't look to buy anything in and around West or Northwest London. They chose to move to South London. I assume it's because of property prices. I think there was a connection to South London in that my dad's family, for those that know sound system culture historically, my dad's family are Saxon sound. So they're in Lewisham, right? So I guess he had a connection to some extent to South London through Saxon sound and all of that. But yeah, so I ended up growing up in Lewisham, even though my family's on the other side. So what that meant is, and it's only later on in life I've realised I actually have a lot of family on my mum's side that's in and around the area. I just didn't know them growing up. I've only met them in the last 9 years or so. Anyway, So how I got into what I'm doing, I always like to say it started when I was still in school. So I was starting year 10, and my head of year, amazing woman, Miss Powell, she said to me, I want you to mentor this boy in year 7. I didn't know what mentoring was. I'd never heard of this concept. I said, why? Why me? Because bear in mind, and I always say this, I'm very unapologetic. I went to school for 2 reasons: to bust jokes with my friends and talk to girls. I'll be real. I went to a mixed school. In my head, I was like, I'm intelligent. If I decide to listen, I know I'm smart. But I'm just enjoying this environment of school. I'm just having a good time. So my grades would always be 2 or 3 below what I should have been getting. But I was like, it's fine. It's not that deep. So anyway, I'm like having a good time. I'm probably being far too backchatty to teachers and stuff. So I'm thinking, Miss, why me though? Because I'm not a good role model per se for this boy. She's like, no, because I feel like you can help bring him out of his shell. You know, he's got anxiety. Didn't know what anxiety was. He's really shy. I said, okay. She said, yeah, like he doesn't really seem to have any friends. He's really concerned about, you know, when there's a fight in the school and everybody rushes over, he tells his mum he feels scared and stuff. And my school was a big school. It was like 300 people per year group. I'll be honest, my school was huge. So when there's a fight, there's a lot of people running to see this fight. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I said to him, Miss, what should I do? She said, well, look, here's some board games. Every Tuesday lunchtime, you're both going to go and get your lunch early. Then you just sit and just chat with him and just play games with him and just see if it raises his confidence. So I said, all right, cool. So anyway, meeting this guy, interestingly, his name was Daniel, actually. And I've been meeting with him and we're just talking, having a laugh, playing board games. Then this is not a good measurement for success, but this was when I realized I'd made an impact. 3 months down the line, I saw him talking to 2 girls in the playground at the same time. I said, well, my work here is done. If he can talk to 2 girls at the same time now, then we're finished here. I said, Miss, look at this. Look at the progress. He's talked 2 girls at the same time. Like, Miss, we're done here. Do you know what I mean? So that actually did genuinely plant a seed in my mind of like, well, maybe I could work with people younger than me and help them in some way. So I leave school, year 11. That summer, my friend, he's a couple of years older than me, and me and him, we grew up from when we were like, I was like 4, he was like 6. We used to like play football together. Our dads both used to like take us to the same football teams, all of that kind of stuff. And then he was about to go to university, but that summer he said, look, let's just like be active and do as many things as we can, just that's available. And so there was this place called Lewisham Youth Aid. It was like a building on, for those that know Catford, Brown Hill Road, right next to Salvation Army. And it was like, the building was half falling apart, if I'm being honest, but they had this small room in there that could hold about 20 people. And they would put on the most phenomenal, just like one-off short courses or let you know about volunteering opportunities and all these different things. And I think to myself, how are they doing this and why are they doing this? But then I didn't realize how significant Youth Aid was. So only when I started to meet more people in Lewisham who were doing interesting things, they'd be like, yeah, I used to go to Youth Aid back in the day, or I go to Youth Aid now. And I'd be like, rah, like a lot of people have come here and have gone to do good things. So I'm seeing examples of, if you come to this place, regardless of what's going on, it could be a course about public speaking, it could be a course about solution-focused youth work, it could be a course about road safety. He was like, bro, we just turn up. We just go there. Even if there's nothing going on, we just go there and they'll give us hot chocolate. Like, we just go there. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a safe space almost.
Literally. And it was like, because we used to always link up and go to the place where everybody would go to kick football called Pits in Catford. So that was like my normal place growing up, was like, if I was frustrated at home, I go Pits. If I just need nothing to do, you go Pits. You just go Pits. So I was like, right, now we got another place to go that's not Pits. So we still go Pits and play football, but we also have Lewisham Youth Aid. Yeah. So by going to Youth Aid, one of the things I got involved in was like the summer reading challenge. So I remember being in primary school and they used to get you to try and read 6 books in the summer holidays. And my mum was on to me and my sister, like my younger sister. She was like, listen, if there's one thing you don't know how to do and do well, it's read. And I remember her pouring into me like that from young actually had massive benefit, because when I went to primary school, and I'm coming back to Youth Aid, don't worry, but when I went to primary school, must have been 5 or 6, and in after school club, so that was like, to me, after school club was the best part of primary school, because now you're mixing with people of all age demographics, all of the people whose parents work and therefore can't pick them up straight away after school or have certain jobs where they get home late. So you know you're going to be with your people. And there was one woman called Donna who used to run our after school club at first. And she was like so balanced. She's like, yeah, you're not going to come here and have fun, but you're also going to still grow regardless of the fact that school's finished. So I remember, never forget, she made us, as a whole group, so there's probably about 30 people at After School Club, we all had to read a paragraph of this book together. And it was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And I remember everybody being so surprised that at 5, 6, I was reading this book so confidently.
Wow.
And then I remember leaving going, but why is that weird? Because my mum makes us read books like this all the time. Do you know what I mean? So I realized, oh yeah, like my mum did a lot. So anyway, go to Lewisham Youth Aid and they say, we want you to volunteer on the summer reading challenge. I said, well, what does that look like? Basically, you're going to be given a library that you have to go to once or twice a week. When the young people have finished their books, you give them their prizes. Some of them you might read with them, stuff like that. I thought, well, you know what? I'm unemployed. I ain't got nothing to do. I might as well just go and do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not being paid, but whatever. Yeah. So I would go to Catford Library once or twice a week. Lewisham Library I was doing it in. I was in it in Lewisham Library. So I'd do that once or twice a week. Give the kids their prizes. It was fun for me because it was like, do you know what I mean? And also it gave me a different perspective on people that work in libraries because everyone says they're like proper bookworms and boring. And I was like, well, let's have some fun whilst we're here. Yeah. So I did that. Other things that I did that summer included, like, as I said, going on these little short courses. But whilst we were there, me and that same friend I'm referencing, we got connected with a guy called Mohammed, who was the area manager, maybe still is the area manager for Lewisham's youth services. Mm-hmm. So he goes, well, listen, we're trying to set up a new youth club in the borough because in Ladywell, there's not a youth club. And we feel like young people from that part of the borough need something to do. We've managed to get the day centre where elderly people go during the day. They have a sports hall. It's unused in the evening. So we're just going to create a youth club in this sports hall. So this sports hall can hold well over 100 people. And when we start the youth club, obviously no one knows about it. So you get like 4 young people turning up. Do you know what I mean? So we're like, this is cool. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a nice tight-knit group where we're thinking this is not really what it should be. Mm-hmm. So I remember we managed to convince the council to give us a little bit of money, and we bought a load of old roller skates because we realised that young people were rollerblading a lot that summer. So we then just said, right, we start running roller disco. You just need a speaker, the roller skates there, and we just start doing a roller disco. Mm-hmm. It goes from 5 young people to 10 to 15 to 20 to grow. About a year down the line, this became the highest attended youth club in the borough. Over 100 young people will be turning up for sessions. Wow. And now we're not just doing it on a Friday, how it started. There's sessions Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay. And it might have been Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I can't remember. But anyway, I'd be signing young people in at the door and they're saying to me, yeah, I've come from Hackney. I'm like, what are you doing in Lewisham? I come from Croydon. What are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? You must have passed many youth clubs to get it. But it's like they heard about this youth club. And so sometimes we'd have to turn people away because we were just like, we didn't expect to have this many. So we wouldn't have enough staff, or we weren't allowed that many of you in this space. And I just remember thinking, this is so significant, because now what I'm noticing is I'm in the youth club and you're playing table tennis with this child, and then you're finding out all the challenges they're facing in school. You're finding out things that are going on in their family life, and you're thinking, to me, I'm not qualified at this point to do youth work. I'm just volunteering, being there. They've hired people who actually are youth workers. And I got offered the opportunity to do like a youth work qualification and get like a proper job with them. But at the time I was like, no, do you know what? I just enjoy being here and having the flexibility of, if I can't make it, it's not like, oh, I've missed work. It's like, I just couldn't make it. But you're meeting these young people and you're saying, why do they feel so safe being here though? Because they're not feeling comfortable in anywhere else in their life. So I remember being like 17, 18, thinking like, what is it about this place that we're doing? And I remember, because a lot of boroughs in London are twinned with another borough in Europe. Yes. We got asked to go to Prague. Okay. When about a year into running this youth club, we got asked to go to Prague. 2 years into running the youth club. We got asked to go to Prague to speak about what we'd done, because in Prague they didn't really have youth clubs. And then we had to give this presentation in like Prague's council building and all of that. And I remember thinking, I'm like 18 at the time, thinking, what are we doing? Like, why are we in Prague giving a presentation on what we've done in Ladywell? Like, this is ridiculous. But again, it's also in seeds for me for, this is really important, because a year down the line after that, they make cuts and they're saying the youth club's going to close. And the young people, no joke, Daniel, they're looking at me dead in my eye and saying, when this youth club closes, we're going on road. Wow. And I was like, no, like, come on, guys. You lot are so skilled, so talented. We're trying to tell them about other options. No. We're going on road. And it was so evident. The crime rate increased significantly as soon as that youth club closed. Wow. And so that for me, and then that coincided simultaneously with that place I referenced, Pitts, where, as I said, I'm not even someone who is involved in badness per se, but if I have issues with my parents at home or I'm feeling angry, I go to Pitts, let off steam. I was like, me and my friend talk about it all the time. We say certain man had their first date at Pits. Don't ask me why you're bringing a girl to where all the men are playing football, but certain man had their first date at Pits, had their first kiss at Pits. Man shot music videos at Pits. People that were supposedly having problems on the roads, they solved those issues at Pits.
It was like a melting pot.
It was a melting pot.
A community.
It was a place where, yes, people booked the pitches to play, but if it wasn't booked, we'd just go and play. And there was a guy, I can't remember his name, I think it was Ruben. There was a guy that worked for Pits who used to, blatantly he was robbing us, but he'd be like, listen, I'm collecting £1 off of all of you lot for being here. And he's like, unless you can hit the crossbar. If I'm going to put the football here, if you can hit the crossbar from here, I'll let you off. You're not paying £1. Yeah. So now every man's making sure they know how to hit this crossbar because you don't want to have to give him your £1. Really, we weren't supposed to give him £1. He was robbing all of us, but we didn't care because it was like, he's letting us play. And we're like, it's better than having to book the pitch for £40. He's making us just give him £1. It's all right. Do you get what I mean? So anyway, the private, like, there's one private, well, maybe two in the whole borough of Lewisham, actually, when I think about it, St Dunstan's and Coles. But long story short, St Dunstan's ended up buying that place. And so we could no longer just go to Pits. They changed the whole security system, everything. You couldn't even get close to the pitches. The part where you walk in the front gate, then you normally have to walk across like 3 grass pitches to get to the part where the 5-a-side part was. As soon as you got to that front gate, what are you doing here? Have you booked a pitch? What's your name? So now we couldn't go. So that, alongside the youth club closing, completely changed the dynamic in the borough. So, not to say that all the youth clubs closed, but a few closed, some stayed open. But that was, like, as I said, the highest attended one. It's most significant. It's right in the centre of the borough, stuff like that. So, all of these things are playing on my mind in regards to what I could be doing. So, you know, then you get to, I can't remember what year Youth Aid closed, but Youth Aid closed a couple of years after all of this as well. So now you've got that as well as another thing that's been lost within the borough. So I just remember thinking to myself, this is what I need to be doing. Now, fortunately for me, the summer between my first and second year of college, so this is all the time when I'm volunteering at Lewisham Youth Aid. That same friend who I mentioned went to university, so he's helped set up the youth club, then he's gone to uni, but I'm now at the youth club. He's come back that summer, he's back at the youth club, then he's found out that, well, I said to him actually that I had hosted this event on behalf of Youth Aid, and this guy from an organisation called NICVIS, the National Council for Voluntary Youth Services, of which Youth Aid was a member. This guy came to the event that I was hosting and said, oh, I work for this organisation called Youth Aid. Now, funnily enough, we're going to talk about this later. He's the same guy who said to me, I'm going to buy a horse. We'll get to that story later. Yeah. So I'm meeting him for the first time, and he's like, oh, I love what you're into. I work for this organisation, NICVIS. You should sign up to our mailing list. So I'm on their mailing list, but I'm not really checking my emails like that. I've seen that they're doing a residential later on that summer, but I just didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh, whatever, they're going to some place in Surrey. It doesn't matter, you know, or Sussex maybe. I was like, who cares? You get what I mean? So that friend that's back from uni, he's like, what do you mean, who cares, bro? Like, we should go. It's something different to do. So I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So he's like, I said, oh, bro, I phoned them and they said there's only 6 spaces left. He said, well, then we fill all 6 with our people. Do you get what I'm saying? So he's like phoned his younger sister, his younger brother, his brother's friend, and like we just all go. So we meet them at London Bridge. We get the train down to this place, and we're there for like, I think it was 3 or 4 days. They're doing different workshops and stuff. And we're just, again, there's young people from all over the country here, but we're just like, we're bringing our Lewisham charisma vibe to it. So we're just unapologetic. Like, we want to be the center of attention. We're busting all the jokes. We're doing all of that. So now everyone's like, who are these people? Do you know what I mean? So as I said, I go to second year college now. And bear in mind, my first year of college, I was going to college in a place called Stanmore, northwest London, just outside even almost. And that's the complete opposite side of London. The reason I was going to Stanmore is because I played football growing up. The first time I ever had the opportunity to play with a professional team was when I got into Barnet. So now to go playing for Barnet, you had to go to Stanmore College because the program I was on, I had to go there. So I'm getting up at 6 o'clock every day, leaving my house by 7, taking me 2 hours to get there because I'm getting the DLR from my house to Canary Wharf, then Canary Wharf, the whole Jubilee line to Stanmore, then Stanmore, walk to 15 minutes to college. Didn't enjoy the football side. So I said, if I'm not enjoying the football side, I'm not continuing at this college. So I moved college and ended up going to Shooters Hill, which was closer to you. Which is closer. Mind-blowing though, when I realised that. I mean, no disrespect to Shooters Hill, but I cannot believe that place exists. But anyway, that place was, like, put it this way, I've gone there just for second year and I'm finding out I'm the only person doing PE because everybody failed the first year.
Wow.
My maths teacher looks like someone out of a cartoon. My biology teacher didn't exist, so I had a geography teacher teaching us biology. My PE teacher because he realized I was the only guy on the course, stopped teaching me in my normal slot and just made me sit in the back of his BTEC class and give me worksheets. So he didn't really teach me. There was 2 PE teachers who had it. The other one did teach me. Then he said to me, I said to him, where do you live, sir? He said, in Jamaica. I said, no, but sir, you work in London, so you can't live in Jamaica. He said, no. He would go home to Jamaica every single holiday. Half term, back to Jamaica. Christmas, back to Jamaica. I was thinking, this guy can't be doing this on a teacher's salary. I don't understand how he's doing this. So anyway, Larry would, and then he just disappeared. After the first half term, I never saw him again.
Wow.
And I just had supply teachers for the rest of the year. Okay. So now I haven't got anyone teaching me. Then I remember he phoned me the day before my A-level exam. How are you feeling about tomorrow? I said, brother, I haven't seen you for 6 months. You have no right to phone me. I don't think you actually are qualified to phone me at this point because you haven't seen me for 6 months. So anyway, the reason I bring all of this up is because I've gone to the residential between first and second year. I remember one day I'm in the library in second year college. Thought, let me check my emails. The people from NICVIS had emailed me in the summer saying, we loved you at the residential. We have this awards ceremony called the Young Partners Awards that we do. It's about celebrating organizations across the country that put young people's voices at the center of decision making. So young people get to have a voice on how their organizations are run, the programs they offer, all of that. So they said, would you mind hosting that award ceremony? I'm seeing this 3 weeks before the award ceremony because I haven't seen my emails for 2 months. So I email back like, you've probably sorted this out, but I'm happy to do it if you want. They email immediately, we need you to come to here this Saturday to do this. I'm like, oh, I got football training with my coach. So like, and my coach is like, this guy who's just mean with it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to go tell him I need to leave a bit early and then I'm going to go to their thing and then I'm going to get ready for this award ceremony. So I go there, they're giving me like the script of what's going to happen at this award ceremony. Anyway, end up doing it. They're like, oh my gosh, you were amazing. In 2 weeks, we've got our annual conference. So it's our 75-year anniversary as well. It's our annual conference. We'd love for you to come and host a section of that. So I'm just like, all right, cool, no problem. Like, bear in mind, when they ask me to do these things, I'm like, how do I have to dress? I don't even know if I own a suit. Like, I'm trying to ask my dad, yo, like, how close to your size am I now? Like, I'm drowning in suits that I'm wearing. Nothing's making sense. Like, I wore my suit that I got from my prom in year 11 for that award ceremony. But the next one, I'm borrowing my dad's suit. I'm defo drowning in it. And like, it's not making sense. But I've done it. And then they're like, okay, in 2 weeks, we've got a job opening for a thing called a young facilitator. So not necessarily facilitating workshops, but more facilitating the same thing that you did the award ceremony for, which is you basically go to organizations across London and get them to make sure they're putting young people's voice at the heart of decision making. So the guy that I met when he came to the event that I hosted at UFAID all those months back, he was the one that was leaving that job and it was basically his job I'd be taking.
Oh, right. Okay.
So at the end of that annual conference, they've all gone to the pub. Bear in mind, I'm too young to drink, but they've all gone to the pub and I'm just like there. And like they're like, what do you want? I said, orange juice or something. I don't know what I ordered. But anyway, he goes to me, let me talk to you outside. And I'm thinking, why is he taking me outside? So again, talking about role models, he's a black man from East London who talks just like me. You know, he's very open with me in terms of challenges he'd had with the criminal justice system, all this kind of stuff. And he's like to me, I remember this, I'll never forget this to this day. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I take into my life now. He said, listen, you're going to enter some rooms and you're going to question why you've been invited in there. I need you to understand that you're worthy of being there. Wow. I said, what do you mean? He said, listen, I already can see the journey you're going on. You are deserving of being in every one of those spaces. And I need you to know that because you deserve to be there. So I was like, okay, this is so random, but cool. And he's like, bro, no, you don't understand. Like, we have the opportunity to buck the trend. He's like, I've met you at the residential. You've told me about some of your experiences growing up in Lewisham, things you've been around, things you've seen, people you know, people you've been around but tried to distance yourself from. He's like, I'm telling you now, your journey is going to be different, but you need to understand you deserve to be there. And he's saying that because I've already shared with him about having the opportunity to do a speech in the House of Commons off the back of, you know, just doing the summer reading challenge. They did a celebration event. And I'm there talking about my experience volunteering in the library. The people who run the Summer Reading Challenge nationally so happen to be there. They're like, oh my gosh, we're launching this year's one, which is the year later. Can you do a speech in the House of Commons at our launch? I'm like, what is the House of Commons? They're like, it's part of Houses of Parliament. I said, oh, again, Dad, have you got a suit for me kind of thing? Like, do you get what I'm saying? So again, go there, do that. And then, anyway, like, so he's saying to me, you've done stuff like this already. So this is your path. So anyway, he said, you have to apply for this job. So I apply. And then when I got to the interview, I thought to myself, there's no way I can get this job. I'm 17 years old. I'm studying maths, PE, and biology in college, the people who are here, one is just graduated youth work policy, one is studying youth work policy, one is about to go to university to study youth and community work. There's no way I can get this job. So I do the interview, and I must admit, when I look back, I smashed that interview. Like, I genuinely smashed it. Like, there's no way that anyone can argue that my approach was top tier. Yeah. But I remember, because I know them already, when the woman who I already know, who was going to be my manager if I got the job, phoned me later that day to say, we would like to offer you the job. I was like, Keji, stop lying, man. Like, just let's be real. You don't, like, let's be real. There's no way. And she's like, Lewis, I'm being serious. I said, Keji, listen, you don't have to do this. I understand. She's like, do you want the job or not? I said, Keji, please, I'll take the job. Do you get what I'm saying? And it was a part-time thing. But anyway, that was then the great transition for me, going from locally looking at youth work to now working for a national organization, but having a regional role, i.e. Pan London.
And you were 17 at the time?
Yeah, so I got the job at 17.
Wow.
And then because my birthday's in July, so I'm a bit later in the year. And so then you know, that because of the organization was smallish, like there's only like 40 people in the whole organization, and of how I am, I just got exposed to so many different things. Okay. So I only worked there for 3.5 years.
Right, okay.
In that time, the amount of things that I did, from having to plan my own conferences to planning regional best practice sharing events to sometimes, I'll be honest with you though, I mean, obviously I'm doing this with a team, and when I look back, I'm like, what did I even really do? Like, I just would, oftentimes they just get me to be the person who was in the spotlight. But then I look back and I'm like, I don't actually feel like I hit many of the targets I was supposed to hit. Why did they keep me around? Do you get what I'm saying? But I think, again, I respect Keji. She was a great mentor and manager to me because she saw something in me. She was always good at giving me critical feedback, but also being supportive, all of that kind of stuff. And so then I'm now working on national projects and then even international projects. I ended up like running this thing 2 years in a row that was an international program where young people were from all across our country, yes, but we then used to prepare them for going abroad and doing like youth and community social action in other parts of the world. And so, I mean, that one thing did annoy me, I must admit. So the year before me, the people that ran it, they had to go to India or Sri Lanka, one of the two. No, sorry, they went to India for their training and they sent young people to Sri Lanka. My year, they're like, yeah, you're going to be sending young people to Bangladesh. I said, oh, that's amazing. Where's our training? They said, oh, this year it's in the UK, it's in Croydon. I said, brother, I'm from Lewisham. Like, that's 20 minutes. Like, no joke, this is how bad it was. I got the tram and that there, and then I thought to myself, why did I do this? I literally left that evening, went home, got my car and drove back. That's how close it was, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's so close to my house that I could have just driven here. So I just went home, got my car and drove back. But anyway, by the time I left that job, I had so much amazing experience. And so all of that kind of just shaped where I am today, whereby I was like, I want to work with young people. I want to be in the youth sector in some way. To be fair, simultaneously, I had also developed an interest in entrepreneurship. So that's what then also started to shape the journey later on down the line too. I feel like I've taken half an hour answering one question. So we might be here a while.
That's very detailed.
Yeah.
So just coming back to your experiences kind of growing up, how did you overcome the negative? And again, the reason I'm asking this question is this podcast essentially is to empower people and to change people's mindsets, you know, to let people know that it's possible, you know, to change the outcomes of your life if you take certain decisions. And my question to you is, how did you overcome the environment of Lewisham, you know, to kind of forge this path for yourself? And obviously you kind of, sounds like you went straight into work instead of following a traditional path, or maybe you went to college and then straight into work, you know, instead of, whereas other people could have go to university and do this and do that. You sort of kind of very early discovered your path, almost your calling, if I can say so.
Interesting. I mean, okay, so I did go to university for 1.5 years as well. I probably should have included that bit. But let me answer the first part of the question and I'll come back to that as well. So in terms of avoiding the negative, obviously I think, you know, we both agree on this, but like, you know, it's never a majority of people that are involved in bad things when it comes to these things. But obviously, yes, the environment has so much of it going on. So I remember being primary school, secondary school, knowing what's going on in the area. And when I look back now, I'm like, wow, we did have to navigate some really weird things, innit? Like in terms of getting on the bus and having to assess as you walk upstairs, who, that guy, he's known to carry things, or those three guys are known to do certain things. So you have to then assess, okay, I don't want to look soft and go back downstairs, but let me sit and just kind of mind my business, or know how to, if they do approach you, which does happen, like knowing how to navigate that. Like, oh yeah, bro, I've seen you around. I've seen you at pits. Now you make it off like but these times you're not 100 sure if you have seen them, but you're like 11, 12 having to navigate that. How do I make sure that something don't happen to me? Or being in school and like, you know, you think to yourself, like, you're just on your way home with your friends, but then not realizing this friend has got into an issue on the roads the week before. Suddenly you're on the train, and like, I never forget one of my friends, really good guy, known him from before we went to this school together. And then like a bag of guys that are in a gang come and get on the train and just start beating him up, and you're thinking, you want to try and stop it, but then at the same time, there's way more of them as there is of you. Next minute, you've realized, oh, he's managed to get away, he's run. Then you're thinking, are they going to come for us? So then we just like, but we don't want to run, because we're also thinking if we run, then it could cause more problems. So we just kind of walk, but we're checking like what's going. So you think to yourself, right, like we've actually had to navigate some stuff, you know? Do you know what I mean? Like, or, you know, even like certain, like my same friend that I talked about who said, let's go Lewisham Youth Aid. To be fair, I always had people who were not family, but were a couple of years older than me, who cared for me, who they would be involved in certain things. And if I tried to spend too much time with them, they'd be like, nah, you can't, because you've got a good head on your shoulders. Like, we actually want you to not be around this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And there was probably times when I probably thought, nah, man, I'll be able to balance. But they would be like, nah, bro, we just need you to take the right path. Yeah. So I'm always grateful to those people. But then also, I think I had the benefit of having two good parents, you know. I mean, you know, I say this unapologetically. I don't necessarily believe that there was necessarily much love between my parents growing up, but they stayed as a unit for the purpose of me and my sister, which I respect. By the time we got to a certain age, they kind of decided, yeah, we're going our separate ways. But I respect the fact that they endured what didn't maybe feel like a relationship to them per se, but for the purposes of saying, we just want to both be there for both our children. And I respect that. So I think that also helps, because then you've got me loving football. At one point in my life when I was really young, my dad might have been working nights and things, so my mum would take me to football. I get older, my dad's now changed jobs, he's taking me to football. And my dad's the kind of person who, again, massive respect to him for this, not only is he taking me to football, any friend that needs to come, whether he can pick them up, he'll pick them up. If not, tell them, meet us here, making sure that they get the lift, drop them home, drop them where they need to get to. So all of them now feel they have a father figure in my dad being that. So I'm very appreciative of him doing that. Very appreciative of my mum knowing that if their parent might only be able to pick them up after they get back to our house, my mum's going to make sure they're at our house, they're fed, they're all of that. So I'm kind of aware that football as an outlet means I don't need to get involved in certain things. Even certain man on road knew me as the football guy. So certain man would be like to me, why are you so cool with all the man that are on road? I said, because I'll be real, I see them at pits. They come pits and they may or may not be looking to kick ball, but they keep seeing my face there. So they just think, oh, he's cool. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So football becomes that thing that it means I don't need to get involved in the wrong stuff, because I'm pursuing football, playing football. And then in terms of finding that path, it's interesting because I didn't really agree that doing work with young people was what I wanted to do professionally, because I didn't know there was a profession or a career in it. So I did, when I finished that second year of college at Shooters Hill, you know, and this maybe is a lesson to everybody, but don't accept that just the results you've got mean that determines what it is you're going to do. So I wasn't very much of a forecaster / someone with a vision. I genuinely, as I said, I went to school for girls and to bust jokes with my guys. I went through a lot of life on vibes. It was like, I'm going to play football, so I'll be all right. I'm smart, so I'll be all right. But I remember being in year 11 and one of my friends, she goes to me, oh yeah, I had my interview for college yesterday. I said, what do you mean interview for college? She's like, yeah, like when you apply for college, some of them get you to do an interview to see. I said, what do you mean you applied for college? She said, yeah, I applied for college. I said, what, you don't just like go like at the end of... She's like, no, like you have to apply. I said, so when was the deadline? She said, oh, most colleges, the deadline was like last week, bro. You haven't applied for no? I said, no. I said, all right, when I get home, let me look into this. Then I got the application forms for all the colleges, and it was like, obviously you haven't done your GCSEs yet because you're applying in like, which I don't know why, but you're applying in like December, or November, December, the year before. I'm like, we don't get our GCSEs until, we're not doing them until May, June. We don't get the results until August. How can you do this? So it's put on there, what are your mock grades? No, it said mock. Mock, okay. So I was like, this is a problem because my predicted are A's and B's, but my mocks were D's and E's. So I did exactly what you just said. I crossed out mock and put predicted, and then I wrote all my predicted grades on the application forms. Okay. And so some of them would write back like, why did you do this? I said, don't ask me questions. Just take what my predicted is. Yeah. And so I remember taking that approach and thinking, what if I can do that for this? I can do that for most things. So anyway, get to second year college, and again, I'm not forecasting knowing what I want to do next. But the normal conventional route in this country is everybody applies for university. So I'm not questioning it. I'm not knowing if there are other options. I'm just like, oh, we all apply to uni. So now I'm doing the whole thing of applying for universities, but having gone to no open days. So I'm just relying on the league table. Yeah, I'm just relying on the league table saying, for sports science, which is what I wanted to do, because that's in my head, I'm like, I do PE, I do maths, I do biology. I'm good at PE, I'm good at biology. Sports science makes sense. So I'm just looking at, well, they said apply for 3 that are more challenging to get into. So I applied for, I think, Loughborough, Bath, and Kent. And then they said, and apply for 2 that maybe won't be so challenging. The grade requirements are lower. So I think I applied for South Bank and Greenwich. And then I remember Loughborough was like, you had to get AAA. Bath, I think, was AAA. Kent was like ABB. And then other ones were slightly lower. And then I wrote the craziest personal statement, because by this point I've got some experience, like I've talked about. So Loughborough, they lowered mine slightly. They said, yeah, we're willing to lower yours because of your personal statement. That could have been based on life stuff, could have been based on my achievements, I don't know. But anyway, I remember because of my challenges with second year college, i.e. no PE teacher for how long?
Yeah.
Geography teacher teaching us biology, not really having any exam prep. I came out with BBC. So I got a B in maths, B in biology, and I think a C in PE or something like that. And I by that point, I decided I'm going to Kent, because Kent, the campus was Medway, and it's only a 45-minute drive from Lewisham.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, that's quite good, because then I don't have to stay down there. I can just do what I do, still have my job, still do other things and be involved in other things, because now the bug's bitten me for like just try new things. And I can go to uni, but without needing to stay down there, just drive there each day. It's not that long. And so, yeah, I said, that's what I'm going to do. So when I got BBC, I remember thinking, but they said ABB. But because of the experiences I've had already, knowing how to navigate life, knowing that in certain environments, you just have to put yourself forward, I just phoned them. I said, listen, I need to speak to the admissions for the School of Sports and Exercise Studies. Phoned them, got through to this woman called Lucy, who also was a lecturer, but she was the head of admissions. I said, listen, I got BBC, but I'm coming. And she was like, okay, sure.
Okay.
I said, fantastic, I'll see you next week. I said, in fact, no, sorry, I won't see you next week. I need to miss the first week of uni. She said, what do you mean? Like, we're accepting you with lower requirements. Why are you going to miss the first week? I said, because in Lewisham College, they're doing this 1-week course on entrepreneurship, and I really want to do it. And it clashes. But I said, let's be real. The first week, it's just an induction, Lucy. I'm not missing anything, am I? Let's be real. I said, I'll see you in week 2. Yeah. She's like, but I really think, I said, Lucy, no disrespect, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I'll see you in week 2. So that was it. And then I just turned up in week 2, said, let me go and personally introduce myself, tell her thank you for being so understanding. And that was how I ended up in uni. But then because of the fact that I was like, I had 2 jobs, I was trying to start 2 businesses, I was playing football, I was doing uni. First year was fine. I got through that comfortably because first year wasn't that challenging. But by second year, with all these responsibilities, I realized I was just not balancing things well.
Drowning.
So I was like, okay, halfway through second year, I cut uni, cut one of my jobs, cut one of the business's ideas, and said I'm just going to have 1 job, 1 business idea, and football, and that's it. As opposed to 6 things, 3 things, because I felt to myself I could always go back to uni if I want to. So I chose to leave halfway through my second year, which was a shame, because I really built a good relationship with Lucy, and I did love it at university. I really enjoyed it, but I just was like, my standards are high like yours are. We talked about this before we started recording. I was like, if I leave university with less than 80%, i.e. out of all the grades I could have got, I didn't get 80% out of 100. That's not my standard. Because I said, yes, I know a first is 70, but I don't even want 70. I want 80. So if I can't do the stuff now to get that, I'm not committing. So I said, I'm not going to get that if I do this. So I'm leaving. So that was why I left. So yeah.
Fantastic. Now I also know that you have 4 core values that you kind of...
Oh, you're the man, you know.
kind of...
Nah, do you know what, guys? Can we just shout out Daniel? Because his prep for this is cold. Honestly, if you don't watch the other episodes as well, you know he's the man still. You're the man.
Okay, so you've got these 4 core values of connect, build, sustain, and repeat. Right, break it down for us.
Sure. So I see it a bit of a philosophy, you know. And this came about 2016. So by this point, I've left the last job that I had, end of 2015, decided that I want to try and work for myself. And in 2016, I remember being asked to do a couple of different like workshops and talks in different parts of the country. And I was going for a run in March. And it hit me, and I said, since January, Lewis, you've been to Gloucester, Newcastle, about 5 other places, and done talks and workshops, but you haven't done anything for your community. And what I meant is 2 things, either like Lewisham specifically, or even just the black community. You haven't done anything specifically for your own. So then I started to think to myself, well, what do I believe the communities that I'm a part of and feel connected to and want to pour back into, what do we need? I think we need to connect one another, i.e. connect people who have skills, talents, experiences, resources. We need to build solutions collectively. Mm-hmm. We need to find ways to sustain those solutions, because oftentimes our solutions are short-lived. Mm-hmm. And then we need to repeat that process in as many different parts of our community and or society as possible. So that became my philosophy, is connect the people, build the solutions, sustain said solutions, and repeat that process. And if we can do that, then we'll see long-term change.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very, very succinct, and I like that.
Appreciate
I like
it.
that. So, I'm just thinking, right? Because you seem to be able to engage with young people, okay, young disadvantaged people. And before we came on air, we're having a chat, right? And some years ago, I went somewhere to play. I play golf, and I went somewhere to play in a golf competition, and not many black people play golf.
Yeah.
You know, so I was paired with this other black geezer, and I was just kind of eyeing him up and down as he came. I'm just thinking, who's this guy? I don't know him in the club and blah. Anyway, so I'm thinking I'm a better golfer than him, you know, just all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I hit my ball first, and then he hits his ball, and I'm just thinking, what?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like a pro.
Yeah.
So suddenly, I shift from the golf to trying to figure out who this guy is. And he's apparently a top neurosurgeon somewhere in East London.
Wow.
Who was so poor when he was growing up that he was a caddy in an impoverished part of Africa. He couldn't even go to school. He was a caddy carrying people's bags, and that's kind of how he learns the game. And eventually somebody managed to bring him to the United Kingdom. He went to school somewhere in East London, and today he's a top neurosurgeon somewhere in East London. And what struck me was that when you take people out of certain environments and change their ecosystem, you know, they can flourish.
Of course.
You know, which is kind of what I see you trying to do. And the reason I'm asking this question is I'm trying to find out how companies or somebody who's watching, because we have a lot of people who watch our podcast, how can somebody who's watching, who's the CEO of a company or decision maker, engage with like 7PK, your company, you know, to what benefits will accrue to a company by engaging with like people like yourself to bring disadvantaged people into a different world and perhaps see what impact they can make on other people's lives. You know, what can you just tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this using a couple of stories as well. So 7PK as an organization came about pretty much as an evolution of a lot of the work that I was being asked to do as an independent consultant and trainer from about 20. So I've been getting asked to do a lot of this stuff for years, but I used to run a marketing agency for 3.5 years. 2019, I closed it, and suddenly I had more availability. So naturally, as I'm sure you know, when you've got availability, the people who have been hoping to be able to do projects with you or get you to consult on things suddenly go, oh my gosh, well, you've got time now, so can we? So anyway, that's why I started 7PK end of 2019, early 2020, is because I was aware that I was limited in the impact I could make if it was just me. So 7PK's mission is to help people in disadvantaged situations to have more equity within society, as you've mentioned. So what that sees us doing is work across 2 main areas: social mobility and equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we do a lot of consultancy, i.e. looking at program design, looking at the way in which organizations develop their strategy around youth and community engagement as part of their social mobility efforts. Similarly, looking at what their approach to EDI looks like internally and also externally in terms of how they might engage with certain communities that lack representation within their organizations. Then we do a lot of training as well. So we train organizations on how to build their capacity for being able to better engage people from particular communities, young people, etc. As well as we do a lot of anti-racism training, EDI training more broadly. Because as far as we're concerned, the philosophy in 7PK, we call it iOS, not that we're stealing anything from Apple, but it's about you build the individual. So you've got to ensure that the individual feels empowered enough has the confidence, the esteem, and the understanding of their own value, so that when they enter these environments, they feel they have something to bring to the table. Then you have to work on the opportunity. So that's why we will do a lot of programs with organizations, which kind of answers your question around, we will have some companies that say to us, listen, we know we want to offer work experience, but we don't know how to bring that work experience to life to make it something that young people will engage in. We don't even know if there's young people who will even care about the fact that we offer work experience from particular communities. So we'll say, well, let us co-design it with you, or let us even curate that work experience and run it for you. So an organization that, I'm grateful that we have a fantastic partnership with, like British Land, massive multi-billion-pound company with, these amazing sites across the country. And for some of those sites, they'll say, listen, we want young people from this borough to come and do work experience with us for a week. Can you design that week? So we'll design what the theme of the week will be, what kind of workshops we'll run, where we want to get people from their companies to come in and run a masterclass or do a talk or be part of something. And then we'll just run that week for them. And so for them now, they benefit from having more young people come and stay, more importantly. That's one of the things they always say is like, you guys can get 20 young people to come on a work experience and 19 of them commit to the whole thing. Wow. Whereas we'll have 20 sign up, 12 show up on the first day, and by the end they're 7. And we're like, no, like when we design something, you commit. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, so that's an example. But similarly, some organizations, it's like, well, actually, even just our insight days, when young people come in for a 1-day thing, we just want them to have a great experience. Can we do that with you, where you can, yes, help find the young people, but also help us know, how do we make that engaging and inspiring and empowering? So, we've done that, for example, and this one was in partnership with the Stephen Lawrence Day Foundation. We did that, for example, with Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren were like, we want to diversify our talent pipeline. We also want to try and make those experiences better for young people when they come into our environments. So, all right, we'll run the Careers Day with you. Do you know what I mean? We've done the same thing with, Lord firms like Reed Smith, where we've brought young people in for Careers Days. We did it with the Financial Times earlier in the year. Like, do you know what I mean? It's about them realizing that, yes, it helps when they've got people who are representative of some of these communities that work for the company that they can, but one thing having them be representative, but it's another thing knowing how to bring it to life. Because we're doing a program at the moment with some young people from a school who are in the sixth form at a school in Camden, and we were talking about this. I was saying, yeah, what if you went to like trips to companies, and they were like, but when you go to these trips, like, I don't care. I've been to Deloitte, I've been to this place, I've been to that place. No disrespect to those companies, by the way. But they're like, sometimes it's just boring. And I was like, yeah, that's because you haven't had someone now to bring it to life for you. That's why you've maybe felt it's boring. So anyway, that's to me the benefit is like, you want young people to not just be aware of what you do, to genuinely feel inspired, to feel empowered, to engage, and therefore build a relationship. So then by the time you turn around and say, oh, we have an apprenticeship opportunity, oh, we have an entry-level role, oh, we have a graduate opportunity, they want to engage with you. And that also goes for small to medium enterprises. It's not always the big corporates. It could be SMEs that benefit from stuff like that as well. So yeah, that's the work we do, and that's the way we tend to do it. But then, as I said, on the other side, it's preparing the environment they're going to enter. So that's why we're so keen on, we must do the training on EDI for your organization, because you can bring young people into this. But when they get here, if they don't necessarily feel that they are welcomed, if they can't not necessarily feel like there is genuine equity that they will experience within this environment, it's irrelevant and it's pointless. Because that's why the S of our iOS is system. We need to develop the system that they are then entering, the structure that they are then entering, to ensure they can thrive when they enter those environments. So yeah,
that's very interesting. So if there's anyone who's watching, I'd encourage you to engage with Louis on this initiative, because you never know the impacts that you're going to have on somebody's life, and then also you never know who's going to enter your recruitment pipeline. Who can be somebody great 100%. If the opportunities are presented to them and if people are helped along and all that.
Without a doubt.
And I'll tell you what, the work you're doing is really worthwhile.
I appreciate it, man.
I find it really, really worthwhile, because we've had all kinds of people on our podcast, and people do different things, and yours has a real direct social impact, which I'm sure many people will testify to many years down the line. And all that. So as we prepare to wrap up, tell us of the story about the horse.
So big up Ari, man. Ari is the true definition of a free spirit. This guy, Nigerian heritage, grew up in East London, later on down the line, I found out that, like me, he loves soca. So I'm a man that, like, I'm unapologetic in how much I love soca as a Caribbean man. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, yes,
Your parents are originally from Jamaica, is it?
So my dad's side Jamaica, mum's side St. Lucian. So yeah. So reggae and soca is what I was brought up on. More reggae, I guess, because obviously soca I'd hear at family events, and my mum would play some calypso. But like, obviously reggae was hard. But then soca, like, I knew it was in me because I'm hearing it at the family events. Then now I got to a certain age and I started exploring it for myself. I was like, it's freedom, and it's like in every way. Do you know what I mean? So I even have a thing that I do because I'm a real junkie is a strong word, but I would go so far as to call myself one for personal development and self-improvement. I have a thing that I do on Instagram called Success Through Soca, where I take soca songs that are about carnival and dancing and waving and whining, and I twist the message to be about self-improvement. So I'll say, well, maybe they're not jumping on the road at carnival. Maybe they're jumping towards their goals, or maybe they're not just waving their flag on the road. Maybe they're waving to the community that can help them to hold them accountable, or stuff like that. So anyway, found out later on down the line that Ari's also a soca man. I said, this is crazy, that how much connections there is between me and this guy. You've seen me host an event, told me about your organization. You've told me that I deserve to be in certain rooms. I've taken the job that you're leaving. We've just kept in touch over the years. This is how much of a free spirit he is. In the lockdown, so we've had lockdown 2020. 2021, February, he was working a job, loved what he was doing. He's working for an organization called, I think it was called Fight for Peace. And he's doing some amazing work in different parts of the country, different parts of the world with them, because they're a charity that does fantastic work. Then he just decided that he'd had enough of being in the UK during all these lockdowns and just decided to move to Aruba.
Wow.
And I remember like going on, doing it on Instagram Live, and he's like, oh, I'm in Aruba. I came off the Instagram Live and phoned him straight away. I said, why are you in Aruba? He's like, bro, I was going to Tesco one day and just realized I've had enough and just went to Aruba. And I live here now. And then like found out down the line, he moved to Dominican Republic, and like, he's just a free spirit. But anyway, he said to me that same conversation where he said, you deserve to be in certain rooms. He said, bro, in life, you have to be who you are when you go into a space. He said, I'll give you an example. I'm going to buy a horse. I said, Ari, why are you going to buy a horse? He said, because I don't know. I just want a horse, innit? Like, I said, what are you going to do with a horse? He said, bro, I don't know, but I just like the idea of having a horse. So I'm going to buy a horse. He said, I don't know when, but I'm going to buy a horse. So like, I said to myself, why is this guy going to buy a horse? So anyway, he didn't buy a horse for a long time. Then I was catching up with him. I think it was actually in 2020. And he goes to me, and I reminded him of the story, because I don't know if he remembered saying to me in like 2011 or something that he was going to buy a horse. And he goes to me, oh, do you know what? I forgot to tell you. You know, I did buy the horse. I said, what do you mean you bought the horse? He said, yeah. I found this horse that I really liked and I bought it. Then I went to collect it and they were like, so where are you going to keep it? And he was like, I didn't think of that bit. He said he didn't have a stables. And they said, so how are you going to train it or rear it? Like, he was like, oh yeah. So he had arranged to collect the horse, but had nowhere to bring the horse. So then he ended up just deciding to say to them, just keep the horse. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just said to him in the end, just keep the horse. I said, Ari, you are a legendary brother. Like, honestly, I've never met anyone like you. But yeah, so that fast forward to now, and I think you asked that story because I did that video recently where I was talking about, you know, again, this one, great partnership with the Stephen Lawrence Day Foundation. Together, we are working with Arena Racing Company to offer, for the first time, apprenticeships at Lingfield Park Resort in Surrey, which is also a racing place. And as much as obviously the apprenticeships are open to everyone, they are aware that this industry lacks representation for people from racialized backgrounds, especially black people. So they're really encouraging people from racialized backgrounds, black people, to apply for these opportunities. So we're actively looking to find young people to put themselves forwards. Not to say you're guaranteed it, because obviously it's not about saying that it's just for you, but put yourselves forwards, the opportunities there. And, you know, the impact's been shown already in terms of the applications they're getting from our community. You know, I've actually got a young person who I used to mentor who faced some super crazy challenges, like things that I didn't even know about until further into our mentoring journey, that he was facing, where he's like literally problems on the streets, that like his life was even on the line. His mum made a good decision in summer to like send him away for a bit, so he was somewhat safe and he's back and whatever. And he lives in like Enfield. This place is in Surrey. Now, yes, we're covering travel, but the thing is, we were kind of aware that it's probably people south of the river.
Yeah.
Apparently, bearing in mind, he's not really doing anything with himself. He doesn't really care about anything. I saw his mum last week and she goes, you know, Javan applied for that apprenticeship. I said, what?
Wow. She
said, yeah, like I sent it to him. I didn't speak to him about it. Saw him later and he goes, yeah, mum, I applied. She said, what? Like, first of all, you don't care about anything right now. Second of all, it's far. And third of all, like, what? And he's just like, just the way Lewis talked about it, I just want to do it. And I thought to myself, that is it, sometimes they just need to see someone that looks like them, advocating for something, someone they feel they can trust, advocating for it, and they will put themselves forward. So, yeah, that's, I thought in the video, I'll talk about the story of the horse.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so what do you think of this podcast and what we're trying to do?
Well, I spoke to, I know Andrew's off camera, but I walked in today and the first thing I said is, this is inspiring. I said that in it, brother. I said literally, this is inspiring. To create a space like this and knowing how much effort you're putting into, you talked about this before we started recording, that, your standard of excellence. This is excellence, if you ask me. You look, the lighting, the quality of the camera, the quality of the microphones, the setup. You thought about having a plant here, the screen behind. Like, all of this to me is excellence. And I'm inspired because I'm sitting there going, I'd love to start a podcast. And I'm now seeing the standard that we can operate to. I'm learning things by being here. You guys are giving me insights into the equipment choices that you're making and stuff like that. But put that all to one side. You said to me when we first met, the mission with the podcast is about shining a light on people who have stories that are maybe not already in the public eye, like, let's say something like a Diary of a CEO. Yeah. But you're saying there are people with phenomenal stories who are doing phenomenal work, and as you said, go against all odds. But we need to shine a light on those stories because people can learn from those things. We can be inspired by those things. But also, more importantly, the community you can develop as a result of that is sensational. So I honestly just want to credit you for this because I think this is fantastic. And I don't know if you feel like you're going to grow fast, if you feel like you're growing steadily, but no doubt you're going to grow. And more importantly, the people you're going to impact through the stories that are being told on this. When I watched a couple of episodes before coming, I said, yeah, do you know what? I'm really grateful to be on this podcast because I think to have contributed to this platform and knowing that I had the opportunity to, one, have a spotlight shown on my story, which I'm grateful for, but also knowing that I got to contribute to this and thinking about the people that it's going to reach because of the true authenticity that you're operating with. I think it's sensational. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I appreciate it.
Thanks for that. We also have a tradition on this podcast where we give our guests opportunity to dedicate the podcast to anyone or any group of people of their choices. So who would you like to dedicate this podcast? You can look in the camera for that or freestyle.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to start by, just because I talked about you, Fade, so heavily at the start, I'm going to dedicate this to the loving memory and life of Maria Dalrymple, who was the person who ran Lewisham Youth Aid, not only the time I was there, but for decades prior. Like, so many people I've met from the borough of Lewisham who went to Lewisham Youth Aid can talk about the absolute stalwart that this woman was in the borough. She fought through tooth and nail to keep that place open. The amount of times they ran out of money and she somehow managed to fight the council or fight someone to give them money to stay alive. And she has impacted thousands of lives who have come out of Lewisham to go on to do great things. So his first person is Maria. And then, of course, to all of the people from the borough of Lewisham who are doing great work to this day, I want to shout out people like Jacob, who I went to school with, who was the first young mayor in the borough of Lewisham. To this day has worked with pretty much every generation of young mayors, candidates that there has been since, and he still works with the young mayors team in Lewisham Council now. So shouting out people like Jacob and people in that team as well. And then the other people I want to dedicate it to actually are my two co-founders of Revolution Hive, because they inspire me. I mentioned one of them earlier and talking about his approach to setting up stuff like this. So he came to my mind immediately when I walked in here, because I thought Kesh would be proud of this, So Keshav and Ishani, my two co-founders of my other organization, Revolution Hive, that the three of us set up in 2016. I want to shout them out because they made a decision that I appreciate for some people could be challenging. So we set up this organization together in 2016. We're doing all this amazing work in the youth sector, going into schools, running workshops and programs for young people. 2020, Ishani has like what she calls an existential crisis, where she's like, what am I doing with my life? She realizes that she really loves being in an academic environment. She applies to go to Harvard to study, gets in. 2021, she goes off to Harvard. I thought, okay, cool, sabbatical. She'll be back in a year. That Kesh is kind of focusing on other things as well. He had things happening in terms of rebuilding a family house in London that he was part of. Plus, he has a coaching business outside and he does YouTube. So I'm kind of the only leadership level within the organization left. Then they are also in a relationship, I might add. So they got married in summer. Congratulations to them. I ended up being able to like MC the reception, everything. So mad love to them. They're like a brother and sister to me. She goes to Harvard, does her 1 year. And then goes, yeah, I'm going to go and get a job at Harvard because I just love being there. So now I'm like, okay, I don't know when I'm getting Ishani back. Then to put the icing on the cake, Keshav loves going to visit her. He then decides he wants to study at Harvard. So then he starts at Harvard August gone. So now it's just me. They're both at Harvard, enjoying married life, doing Harvard study and Harvard life. And I'm just left here like, guys, I'm across the pond still running the business. You get what I'm saying? I'm over here, guys, still trying to keep our business alive, just so you know. Yeah. But no, I want to shout out them because they've inspired me by making that decision. They inspire me by just everything that they do. And they've poured a lot into my life. I think they are great representatives of always wanting to think about not only what is the next step in terms of your journey on an individual level, in terms of your relationship, their roles within family, but also in terms of the fact that they always remind me the mission is big. So they'll be like, bro, we're at Harvard, but don't get twisted. The things we're learning, we're bringing it back to Revolution High, bro. Wow. We're bringing it back. Wow. So I want to shout them out as well. So yeah.
Fantastic. I also want to say a very big thank you to our sponsors, Consulting Professionals and Alexander Ash Consulting, who are transformation consultants and talent providers and have been very, very supportive of this channel. So thank you very much to both organizations. And on this note, Louis, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I'm just really encouraged and energized to see how you've managed to do something with your life, because it hasn't been a straight path.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't been. Just listening to, I can see lots of twists and turns and all that. But somehow you've managed to forge a path for yourself. You're impacting people. You're doing something useful and beneficial. And we're proud to collaborate with you on this.
I appreciate you.
And thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me, man. And all the best with the rest of the podcast as well.
Genuinely. Thank you very much. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, I'd like you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And on that note, see you next week. Yeah. Thanks, we did it.
Much love, man. Appreciate you. No, this was so good. I enjoyed that.